Okay, so without further ado, I'm delighted we can introduce our speaker today, Rebecca Carey. She's the Head of Membership and Education at the IStructE headquarters. She's many years experience, as you know, in membership with the IStructE and other institutes. So we're delighted she's agreed to give us this talk today. So I'll hand over to you, Rebecca. Thank you.
Great, thank you for having me. Bear with me while I try and share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yeah, I can see that there. Yeah, thanks, Rebecca.
Yep, great. Okay. Right. So I'm Rebecca Carey. I'm Head of Membership and Education at the IStructE. And what I'll be running through today is the various routes to membership. We like to say that there is a route for everyone, and I genuinely believe that to be the case. We'll look at the different academic requirements and what you just need to do to apply, and how you navigate your way through the process. And just some other, at the end, just some other bits of interest that you might like to get involved with at the institution. So for those of you that aren't aware, the IStructE is the largest membership organisation dedicated to structural engineering itself. We have a broad membership around the world, over 30,000 members. So if you're not already a member, I would recommend that you join as a graduate, or you might even be a student member still at the moment. We have various grades of membership to suit where you are within your career. Obviously, once you've finished your studies, you can go into graduate membership of the institution. And from that membership, you can use that as the starting off point to become either chartered if you want C-End registration, or an associate member if you're looking for I-End registration. It's from chartered membership that you can then progress on to fellowship of the institution. And I'll be talking about that in more detail a week today, another session. We've also got a membership grade for technicians. So that would be for people that have followed more of the apprenticeship route and don't have a formal degree. And from technician, you can then progress up to chartered and associate membership. So graduate membership is a good starting point if you're not already a member of the institution. It's a good way of getting involved, of making sure you're connected with your local regional group, getting some discounts on events, CPD events, publications and things like that. You also get some free access to technical guidance notes and discounts on exams and other publications. So if you've not done so already, please apply, and I've just popped the link there for you to use. So moving on now to initial professional development, there are three different steps that you would go through to become professionally registered, regardless of the route that you're following. Most candidates will follow the standard route. So this presentation really deals with that standard route in most detail. So you first of all need to show that you've met the academic requirements for the grade that you're applying for. You then need to satisfy the initial professional development requirements. So that's your experience and your competence. And you then need to pass the professional review, which is our exam and our interview. If you're already registered as a chartered engineer, as C-End with the ICE, we do have a mutual recognition agreement route that would exempt you from the PRI. And we have the same for Engineers Ireland as well. So if you're registered there, there's a slightly different route for you. So looking now at the academic requirements, this is what you need to understand when you're coming to join as let's focus on chartered membership. So the benchmark academic requirement you need for that is an MEng or its equivalent. We're able to use our chartered membership exam. So if you have a degree that isn't at MEng level, you can still use our chartered membership exam as that proof of further learning. When you come to apply for membership or for graduate membership, we will advise you what you need to do in terms of your academics if you don't automatically meet the threshold standard for it. So your degree might be accredited through the Joint Board of Moderators, which the IStructE is a member of the JBM. So you might be accredited there. You might have a degree that's from Europe. It might be listed on the FIANI index, or probably you will have a degree that will be recognised by the Washington Accord. And if you have one of those three things, you don't need to do any further learning with us. If you don't, we have a few different options for looking at your academic qualifications in more detail. So this, if you need to have what we call an individual case procedure, which is an in-depth review of your academic qualifications, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with your studies. It just means that we don't currently automatically recognise it yet. And during this process, we would look at your entire portfolio of qualifications, and we look at your transcripts and your overall results. So we look at the different topics and modules that you studied and the results that you got in them. And if there are any gaps identified, then you'll be advised of what you need to do to make up any shortfall. It might be that the committee that looks at this advises that you need to do a couple of additional modules of formal study, or it might just be that our chartered membership exam would be sufficient to make up any shortfall that's been identified there. As with all of this, if you're not sure at all, and if you're thinking now about working towards chartered membership and you're just not sure, please do email the membership department and we can have a look through your academic qualifications. There's no obligation with that. You can just submit us an email and we'll have a look at it. And from there, you can then decide if you want to join as a member or if there's something else you need to do in the meantime. So now looking at IPD, this is the other part that you need to demonstrate to become professionally qualified. This is where you demonstrate that you've got the skills and the knowledge and the competence to be a structural engineer. So we have 13 core objectives at the moment, and they're broadly split into these three different areas. So personal, engineering, and management and commercial. And this slide here is quite a busy slide. So what I'll do is whiz through it quite quickly, and then I'll share the slides with Nuala as well, so that she can send them around to you if you want to have a look through it in more detail. But basically what this slide shows is all 13 of our core objectives and the different level that you need to achieve in them. So it would be the appreciation, which is that lighter pink colour, which is the sort of lowest standard of understanding, all the way up to ability, which is the dark maroon colour there, showing that you need to be a bit more expert in those areas as opposed to law or commercial awareness. So excuse me while I just whiz through these, which just say a little bit more about what we expect to see for each of those core objectives. You should be aware that if you're targeting an application date from 2023 onwards, so if you think you're going to apply for your interview by the 1st of September deadline next year, we are actually changing our IPD regulations. This has been published on our website, and again, I'll send the link to Nuala so that you can look at this in more detail. What we've basically done is rationalise the 13 existing core objectives, which are shown on the right-hand side of this slide. And on the left-hand slide, you've got the list of the 10 new core objectives that we have come up with. So nothing has really been lost from the core objectives. They've just been rationalised, grouped together if there was any duplication to make it more straightforward for both the candidate and the reviewer when you're collating your information and going through the assessment process. There is also a greater emphasis on environment and climate emergency throughout all of these objectives. So we do have an objective purely looking at sustainability, but you'll see that working in a sustainable way is reflected across many of those core objectives now. So just to confirm, that is from anyone that applies from the 1st of September 2023 onwards. You'll be assessed against those new 10 core objectives. We'll be doing some short videos and putting further information out as the year progresses so that you can understand what you need to put in your portfolio for each of these different elements. So looking at the different routes that we have now, this is where you choose the route that best suits your circumstances and the way that you're coming to apply for professional registration. What I will say is for each of these routes, we have the same success rate in the PRI for all of them. So this is just more about how you collate and gather your evidence that you submit to us, that there isn't a route that is deemed to be easier or more successful. So if you look at individually managed, that will be where you are working with a mentor. You're probably a more recent graduate, so that will be, you will start tracking from now for the next few years up to the point that you are ready to submit. You'll probably be looking at quarterly reports of your IPD and working closely with your mentor to identify any gaps within your training or any other projects, for example, you might want to work on, just to get a bit more in-depth knowledge. Accredited training scheme, this is where if you are on a training scheme with the Institution of Civil Engineers, you can use that paperwork to satisfy our IPD requirements, so you don't have to duplicate anything you've already done. And then finally, retrospectively collated. This is where you'll be probably a few more years out of university. You're probably ready to apply quite soon. So instead of working forwards, you will just look back on the experience you've got and you will retrospectively put together your IPD portfolio. So you'll look back across the last few years and you will then collate your evidence in that way, looking backwards. You might still have a mentor, you might not. It's not essential for that route through. So moving on now to the professional review itself. So this is the assessment that you need to go through to become professionally registered. And we have it split into a two-stage process. So we have an exam and we have an interview. And it's really important that you remember that you can do these elements in whatever order you want. It's entirely up to you if you want to do the interview first or the exam first, or you can even kind of take them concurrently if you apply for the exam later in the year. So the interview is probably about an hour long. And that will be looking at the core objectives. You'll submit a portfolio of evidence to your interviewers. You'll be asked to give a short, maybe 10-minute presentation of your career and look at a summary of each of the core objectives. And you will then go through and just have a conversation with those reviewers where you'll answer questions about your portfolio and the kind of work that you've been doing and how you believe you've met those competencies. All of our interviews are done online and you submit your portfolio electronically as well. So there's no need to print and post things anymore to reviewers. You will then do the 7-hour chartered membership exam. This is a test of conceptual design, and for the chartered membership one, you'll be asked to come up with 2 distinct and viable solutions to a design problem. The idea is it's meant to replicate a day in a design office. It would be a very intense day, but that's the idea of it. We hold the exams, typically we've held them in January and July, but with COVID, a couple of years ago, we needed to delay one of the exams, and that sort of had a knock-on effect on all subsequent exams that we've had since then. So this year, the exam is held in September. Next year, it will be February and July. And then from 2024 onwards, we're going back to January and July. So basically, you choose when you want to sit the exam and when you're ready to apply for it. There are different forms that you submit. So the first form you'll need to submit to us is the expression of interest form. You can do this at any time of year, and this is where you provide us with information. If you're not already a graduate, that's when we will make you a graduate member of the institution, and we'll carry out the check of your academic qualifications and just advise you if there is anything else you need to do there. Once you've got that form in, you will then be eligible to apply for your exam or your interview, or both, depending on your preference. So the examination deadline is 1 month before the date of exam. So that's when you need to register pay your exam entry fee and tell us where you want to sit your exam. And the PRI deadline is on the 1st of September. In the not too distant future, we will be looking at introducing 2 PRI deadlines per year. But for now, the next one for you will be the 1st of September if you're working towards it this year. So on those forms, make sure you complete them as far as you can. And obviously, any questions, please get in touch and ask us. And here we've got the application fees for 2022, just to set out that you pay your initial application fee, you'll pay a fee for your interview, and you'll pay a fee for your examination. And if you're not already a graduate member, you'll also need to pay the graduate member subscription that's prorated from when you apply. So as I've said, the deadline for PRIs is the 1st of September, and with that time frame, the interviews normally take place in November and December of the year in which you apply. You will indicate your preferred regional group when you apply. Typically, everyone is interviewed by their preferred regional group. But we just allow for moving people around if in any regional group there's a lot of candidates and the reviewers aren't able to cope with that number, just so that we're not delaying things at all. Your interview will be organised by your region's PRI coordinator, and it's that coordinator who's a volunteer who will send you the date and time of your interview. It might be possible to change the date and time if it doesn't work for you, but please do make sure you ask that early if you think there's any sort of clash with the dates there. All of the interviews will be conducted online, usually over Teams or Zoom. And you'll be asked to send your electronic portfolio of evidence directly to your reviewers a couple of weeks before your interview is due to take place. So you don't need to have that portfolio of evidence ready when you apply for the PRI to the institution, but you do need to make sure you've got it ready at least 2 weeks before your interview is due to take place. The examination is, we have an online booking system, and you'll only be able to access the online booking system if you've already submitted your expression of interest form. And we use that to add on different eligibility criteria that would give you access to the form. So if you're trying to book the exam and it's saying that you don't have access, you need to get in touch with the examinations team and they'll check your record and see if there's anything going on there. You need to choose your location where you want to sit the exam. We have established centres around the world where we use them every year, but if there isn't one in a reasonable travelling distance to you, we can also set up ad hoc centres as well if it's needed. So you just need to ask about that and we'll see what we can do. The next exam is on the 7th of September this year, and the booking for that will close on the 7th of August. So sadly, people do fail interview and exam. A third of all candidates pass the exam on their first attempt, and that is greater than the global pass rate, believe it or not. The chances of you passing the exam increase greatly if you do good preparation, but it is a challenging exam. It is meant to be, but it's not impossible to pass, and the pass rate is greater than you might think on just looking at the global pass rate statistics. If you do fail it, you'll be able to get feedback from your examiners about where you lost points, but you will not get a copy of your completed exam script. You can sit the exam any other time you want at the other sessions during the year. Once you have passed that examination, the result of it never expires. So once you've passed it, you will never be asked to sit it again. I'm sure you'll be delighted to know that. Looking at the PRI, the interview element then, the pass rate for that is around 75% every year. If someone fails on 3 or fewer of the core objectives, they will then just be interviewed against those 3 or fewer failed ones next time. If you fail on 4 or more, then you'll be interviewed on all 13 core objectives next time. If you pass your PRI, but you haven't yet passed your examination, you do need to be aware that the result of that PRI does expire after time. So this is based on Engineering Council rules, but you must attempt the exam within 3 years of passing your PRI, and you must pass it within 5 years of passing your PRI, otherwise the result will expire. And if that happens, you'll need to have another interview before you can be elected. It happens very, very rarely. And we will contact people that are in that situation where it looks like they're coming up to the time limit, and we will advise them that they need to attempt the exam again to keep their PRI result current. So we will let you know if that ever happens, if you fall into that situation. So looking now at the different guidance and support we've got available for you as you're going through your exam or your PRI. We have an on-demand prep course for both the PRI and the exam. Both of these courses give you access to a series of videos for 12 months unlimited access. So you can revisit them at your own pace, go through them however many times you need, or if you just need to redo certain sections or remind yourself. If you purchase the exam prep course at the moment, please be aware that we've got a 10% discount with that exam 10 discount code there. So if you want to use that yourself, or if you just want to make a note of that and share it with your colleagues as well, please do take advantage of that discount. You can find more exam guidance on our website. So on this page, you'll find all of the past exam papers. There are reports from the examiners. So they will say, this is the answer we're expecting to see. These are the areas that candidates typically failed in, just to give you a good pointer as to the correct way to approach a question. You'll also find general guidance and information there about if you need a reasonable adjustment, if you need more time in the exam, or if you need us to look at a different setting for the exam for you. That can all be considered there. You'll also find some top tips from candidates that have passed the exam, and links to the prep courses that are run by your regional groups, if that's if you'd prefer to do something more perhaps face-to-face, or at least a bit more interactive if it's run online, rather than the just the video online prep course that the institution offers. For IPD and PRI, you can also find a ton of information on our website, so guidance notes on how to complete your IPD quarterly report forms. There's some templates there and some examples of good ones and bad ones, and different templates that help you track your IPD progress, and also guidance on how you compile and submit your electronic portfolio guidance. So moving on now just to the next steps for you that you might want to be thinking about now. If you're not sure if you're a member of the institution, please do check that. So you can check that by logging into my account on the website, or you can just contact the membership team directly. You should also look at the IPD regulations to see if you've made any progress there, or what you might need to do to be ready to apply. And be bold and set yourself a target date for your PRI and your interview as to when you think you would like to apply for it. Just some other information here. We run a Young Engineers Conference every year. This year is the first year in a little while that we're actually doing a face-to-face event, and it's being held at the University of Salford with a theme of reimagination, looking at regeneration and what structural engineers, what role structural engineers will play in regeneration of areas, and making sure they're fit for purpose, fit for the local community. So if you can get over to Salford and go to this event, or it will be available as a recording afterwards that you'll be able to view and download. And just a final point here about the climate emergency. I'd urge you to go to the resources page of our website. There is a ton of information there which is freely available. And there's an interactive PDF of the resources that you can look at. Just a lot of useful stuff there. And while you're there, you can look at our recent video, which is called "What Are You Going to Do About It?", which looks at how structural engineers can take responsibility for climate emergency and the things that the institution is doing to support that. Then finally, my contact details are here, so please feel free to get in touch with me directly or contact the membership inbox if you have any questions at all. So that's my presentation done. If anyone, let me stop sharing. If anyone has any questions now, I'm happy to answer them, or if not, you can drop them in an email.
I have a just quick question there. You mentioned that if you're chartered with Engineers Ireland, that there's a different route than for the, there's no exam or interview, or is there just a difference in that?
I believe if you're with Engineers Ireland, you don't need to have a professional review interview because we've mapped it against the interview that you've already had to become a chartered engineer. So we would just need you to confirm that you're a current member there in good standing, and we would then contact them just for confirmation of that, and that means you can just go straight for the chartered membership exam.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
You can type them into the chat as well if you have any problems with speaking. Thanks.
Hi, Rebecca. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Hi. I have recently done a number of years of engineering work in Australia. How would I get that experience signed off and things to be applicable for my application for IStructE?
So with experience that you've already got, that sounds like you would then follow the retrospectively collated route. It's a lot of it's taken, well, it's taken on trust that what you write on those forms is accurate, because you will be questioned on it at interview. So you don't specifically need to have someone officially signing them off to say that they're accurate, but you would at some point need a supporter that signs off your application as a whole when you're ready to submit it. So it doesn't need to be every single individual element of it would get signed off in that way.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't see anything else. I'd just like to add that we do our interviews usually early December to mid-December for the PRI interview. So just to be aware of that, and all the information for your electronic portfolio is online, but to take note, it's a maximum of 300 pages. So we do have some issues with that, especially for the retrospective route where people have a lot of evidence, but try and whittle it down. There's a maximum amount there. So we usually have to send them back if you go over the 300 pages, but just to be aware of that. We'll see now if there's any more questions, but
and there's a minimum font size as well, so you can't just do a tiny font to keep it under 300 pages as well.
Very good. Okay.
Well, I mean, just feel free to get in touch with me if you're looking through your, and you're thinking how that information applies to you personally. Please just send me an email if you've got any questions or queries, and I'll be happy to go through it all with you.
All right. All right. Well, thanks a million, Rebecca.
Thanks so
It's a shame we can't do the applause, but thanks for putting all that together. And I'll send out the slides that you mentioned, and there was something else you mentioned you were going to send out to us. So I'll send that out.
Yeah, it's the link to the updated core objectives that I'll send to you, Nuala, that you can include with the slides.
Yeah, and I think that's a very positive way to go, to include sustainability and climate emergency going forward. We all need to be thinking about this, and definitely it should be a requirement, you're right, in chartership. But that, as you said, is only when you apply from 1st of September 2023. So anyone before that, it's still on the old core objectives.
Correct.
Excellent, brilliant. Okay, so hopefully there's something there for everyone. There's no way that you can't apply for this, because the retrospective collation is a great route if you haven't been following anything formalized. That's how you can put your evidence together against each core objective. So don't think it's hard to apply. Well, it is hard to put your evidence together, but yeah, there's lots of different routes there. So thanks a million for all of that. Okay, if there's no more questions, we'll finish there. Okay.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for inviting me along, and might see some of you next week with the fellow presentation.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks so much,
very much.
everyone.
And thanks, Nuala, for organising.
No worries.